Welcome back to the MMA Plug, presented to you by 98.1 FM, Mile High Sports Radio. I'm your host, Jordan Kurtz. Give me a follow along online at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. Last segment, we covered the main card of this historic UFC 300 card. These next few minutes, we're going to be going through the remainder of the card. So that's the prelims and the Fight Pass early prelims. There are so many fights, like I say, that you just can't not watch the card in its entirety through and through. I know that there were some people that were hoping to have more from UFC 300, or they were wishing that it was going to be a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Well, guys, I mean, if we're looking at it for what it is, this is a damn great card. And there are about a dozen champions or former champions on this card. So for what is available out there, man, I think that this is an incredible card, and the entertainment value and the potential that the names that are on this card bring. How can you not be excited for Saturday? So we're, like I say, we're going to go through some of these matchups here. You have ranked contender after ranked contender, champions from other organizations, former UFC champions, and contenders on the rise. It's like I say, it's everything that you could want and then some. Main event of the prelims is a light heavyweight banger between Yuri Prohaska, who's taken on Alexander Rakic. Now, Rakic is returning from the injuries, and before he left, he was in a position where he was making a run. The guy is a former soccer player who is a 6'5" block of muscle who throws those kicks like a damn mule, and Yuri's style might put him in jeopardy. I love Yuri Prohaska's style, the ultimate warrior, the ultimate savage, a ninja through and through, a guy whose life is by the Bushido code. But he also gets hit. He also has the tendency to take some damage. And if the real Alexander Rakic shows up, I don't know how many shots that Yuri can just take. On the flip side of that conversation, though, Yuri has some incredible power in his own respect, and Yuri comes at you from unorthodox angles, and his entry points aren't something that you can really prepare for. So that's always going to be an issue for whomever it is that he fights. And Rakic being away, if you want to think that ring rust is the thing, that could all very certainly be a factor in this fight. If you're asking me for a lean, yeah, I would lean toward the former champion in Yuri here. Co-main event of the prelims, you have number 8 featherweight, take Calvin Kattar, who's taken on the former bantamweight champion, moving up to featherweight in Aljamain, the Funk Master Sterling. How Aljo made 35 is crazy. I mean, I've seen the guy and been around him. The dude is a tank. Looking at him and he's yoked. It's not like he gets big and that he's super fat or anything like that, like a Patty Pimblett. No, he's just muscle. Like, the dude is solid through and through, and how he was able to get to 35 for so many trips to the octagon is absolutely insane to me. Him moving up to 45, though, this is a very stiff test as he takes on somebody like Calvin Kattar, especially considering in his last fight, he got knocked out by a guy who has incredible boxing in Sean O'Malley. Calvin Kattar returning from a devastating injury himself, that opens up some opportunities possibly for Aljo. Aljo is the vastly superior grappler in this fight, and if the fight makes its way to the canvas, this is Aljo's territory. What concerns me is Aljo saying that he wanted to make this fight look like the Holloway fight and that he would be Max. I've just, and it's no disrespect to Aljo, I've never seen him put forth a striking display or a performance that leads me to believe that he is even remotely within the same stratosphere of a striker as Max Holloway. when we're talking straight grappling or what his dominance in the other realm could be. Oh yeah, not gonna refute that, and not gonna refute that. I think that should they tie up, Aljamain gets a submission. Make of that what you will. I'll call this one a pick 'em. Following that, you have a matchup between Holly Holm taking on Kayla Harrison. Holly Holm, the number 5 ranked women's bantamweight contender, former UFC champion, takes on the former PFL champion in Kayla Harrison. The biggest concern that I have for this fight for Kayla is the weight, plain and simple. Yes, right now in the videos or the interviews and all that Kayla's put out there, she looks like a diesel mechanic who's double timing as a lot lizard. But if she is able to make the weight and it doesn't deplete her too much, I, that's hard not to give Kayla Harrison the nod in this fight, given that she's 16-1. Her one loss was getting sniped by Larissa Pacheco. Are there holes in her game? Absolutely. But is she a brute? Does she have tremendous power once she's able to get on top and start unloading those elbows as we saw in her Invicta fight? Yeah, that's a bad position to be in if you're Holly. Holly will need to be the outside tactician, the sniper, if she wants to get her hand raised against Kayla Harrison. But Holly also has a lot of tells in her game at this point, and I love me some Preacher's Daughter. I have been a Holly stan for a long time, but at this stage of the game, Holly has patterns and she hasn't broken away from those patterns. And I think the reputable coaching that somebody like Kayla Harrison has from her American Top Team staff will have her very well prepared. Holly is also now in her 40s and she's no longer the spring chicken that she once was. I think that Kayla Harrison goes out there, and as long as, again, she's able to make the weight, she gets a win in this fight. And that sets up a potential fight with maybe a Juliana, or maybe that throws her right away into title contention with Raquel Pennington. We'll see. What do you guys think? Does the former 2-time Olympic gold medalist Judoka get it done, or does the preacher's daughter catch lightning in a bottle, and does she derail the hype train right away? Let me know what you think. Hit me up on social media. That's on Instagram or on Threads at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. On Twitter, it's at Peanut Podcast. Following that, you have Super Sadiq Yusuf, number 13 ranked featherweight, veteran of the Contender Series, taking on one of the, I think, the brightest prospects on the entire roster right now in Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez is gifted in the striking department, and he is a world-class grappler. He has heart that has an unrelenting motor to continue to move forward. Diego Lopez is going to be the longer and lengthier fighter in this matchup. Sadiq is a very tough guy to fight, and he has those tight, compact dimensions. He's a solid wrestler. He has some crisp boxing in his arsenal. I would like to think, though, that looking at this overall in totality, even though Sadiq Yusuf certainly has the experience advantage, he has the stronger resume in terms of strength of schedule and prestige, if you will. I think that right now Diego Lopez has the hot hand. You know, he's a part of Alexa Grasso's staff with The Ultimate Fighter. The dude is just he's coming into his own, and I think that that's a guy who you have to keep your eyes out for rising up those featherweight ranks and fast. Moving along, we had the Fight Pass prelims. You have a lightweight matchup between two ranked guys, and again, for there to be a ranked matchup in the lightweight division, and it is on the Fight Pass prelims, that should show you all just how stacked and how loaded this card really is. You have a matchup between the number 10 ranked Jalen Tarantula Turner against Hanato Money Mekano. Money Mekano has rose tremendously or exponentially, if you will, in terms of his social media metrics and his popularity ever since that call out at Madison Square Garden about a year and a half ago, a little under a year and a half ago. He has a violent skill set that is able to finish the fight with striking or with submissions. But Jalen Turner is on a run in his own respect. He's had a little bit of ups and downs with some of the top competition that he's faced, but he just had a massive knockout on short notice against Bobby Green. If you're Jalen Turner right now, your confidence is hanging and swanging. You are walking in there with an elephant trunk. And somebody like Renato Meccano, he's not going to shy away. He is your Huckleberry. But this fight right here, ladies and gentlemen, this could be a fight of the night type of contender right here. I have no idea how this fight goes. You have the 6'3", 155-pounder in Jalen Turner, who's taken on another guy who is long and lengthy in Renato Moicano. But Moicano is not those dimensions. And I think this is going to be interesting to see how Moicano deals with somebody who is longer and more lengthy than he is, because he's used to being the guy who typically has that reach advantage. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. The next matchup is a former champion in Jessica Andrade, number 4 ranked, taking on Marina Rodriguez, coming into the contest at number 6. Couple of striking specialists. Marina Rodriguez has tremendous Muay Thai. Jessica Andrade is just, she's a brute. She's a bulldozer. Unfortunately for Jessica, she's had a mixed bag of results over the last couple of years. But in any given fight, though, at the same time, if Jessica shows up, she could go out there and steamroll anyone in 3 different weight classes, which is insane to think that she has the resume that she does at 15, 25, and at 35. I do believe that maybe some of these matchups have been a little bit ill-advised in terms of Jessica hopping in. I get it. Try to make as much money as she can while she can. But also at the same time, you know, when you're in the tops of the division in multiple different weight classes, you would like to think that maybe there's a little bit more IQ going into the mashups that you take. But then again, I'm not the one in her financial decision. I'm not the one who is making these moves for her. So that's just simply one guy's input and intake there. But you know, I think that Jessica Andrade, as long as she doesn't get clipped with a big strike from Marina Rodriguez, I think that she could find a way to get it done. Now, that being said, Rodriguez, if she is able to keep the fight at her range and she lands the elbows, she works the clinch, she has those knees find the body, there is going to be routes to victory for Marina Rodriguez as well. Guys, the next fight that we're going to talk about, you have to ask, how is this number 2? And then you're going to say even more so for the card opener. But you have Jim freaking Miller taking on number 14 ranked lightweight Bobby King Green and the second fight of the night. Jim Miller, the Iron Man of the UFC, one of the most respected men in the entire business. He will make history on Saturday once he makes the walk out to the cage, as he will be the only guy who can say that they fought on UFC 100, UFC 200, and now UFC 300. Obviously, he hopes to get his hand raised against the tried and true veteran in Bobby King Green, who we just mentioned. Bobby Green is coming off of that knockout loss to Jalen Turner. So how recovered is Bobby's brain this quickly going into this matchup? Certainly something to see. And a guy like Jim Miller, who does have some pop in his hands, could be cause for concern. Jim Miller is also an elite black belt and a submission specialist, but Bobby Green is no slouch in the grappling department. He doesn't get enough credit for his wrestling and his grappling acumen. Bobby also keeps his hands down at his waist and throws from down low. So it's unorthodox angles that things are coming in, and that helps him be able to help to defend some of the takedowns and might be able to stuff some of those attempts from Jim Miller. Again, though, to think that these guys who have been around in the UFC for, a decade plus apiece, they're the second fight of the night and one of them is ranked. Wow. This card is tremendously stacked. And I'll reiterate that point as we talk about the final matchup on the card, which is two former champions. This is a bantamweight matchup between the number 8 ranked former flyweight champion in Davison Figueiredo taking on Cody No Love Garbrandt, the former bantamweight champion. Cody Garbrandt has never looked the same since the knockouts with TJ. And that's unfortunate because the matchup that we saw Cody win the title when he was in his mid-20s against Dominic Cruz was a god-tier performance. Cody was so far ahead of Dom in that fight that it wasn't even funny. And I mean, I say that as someone who is a massive Dominic Cruz fan. The Dominator got dominated. But that Cody, it's just, I don't know if we ever see that Cody again. He's made some changes in his training a couple of times. He was training with Mark Henry for a little while, going back and forth between there and Sacramento. Then now he's mostly, he calls Vegas home, trains with the crew out there, including guys like Alex Perez. I think that Cody is still capable of being a very good fighter who has exciting performances in him and can produce a big finish. I mean, we saw that when he fought Boom Kelleher at UFC 296 just a couple of months ago in December. But somebody like Davison Figueiredo on the opposite side, he hits hard. And he is a legit black belt in the grappling department. He's explosive. He's violent. He has the nickname God of War for a reason. Cody's chin might be the demise of him in this fight. If Cody is able to keep this fight clean and use his boxing, because when Cody flows and he straight boxes and he doesn't turn it into a brawl, he's phenomenal. The way that he can get in and out, as we talked about in that Dominic Cruz fight. But when he starts trying to hang in there for too long and maybe takes a picture, maybe throws one more than he should have before he got out of the exchange, that's where he runs into trouble. That's where he's gotten clipped. That's where he gets hurt. That's where he gets finished. Playing that game with somebody who is as explosive as Figgy is, that's like fishing with dynamite. There's a good chance that some stuff is going to get blown up that you did not want to have destructed. All around, what a card, though. Like I say, guys, when we have two former champions opening up the Fight Pass prelims, that goes to speak to the caliber of everybody who is on the card. Do you think that the bout order was maybe off? Would you have liked to have seen something different? What are your thoughts on this here? Let us know on social media. That's me, Jordan Kurtz, at Comments from the Peanut Gallery on Instagram as well as Threads. Stick around after the break, folks. We're going to be going 3 rounds. This is the MMA Plug presented to you by 98.1 FM, Mile High Sports Radio. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. That helps us continue to produce this original MMA content and bring it for you every single week. Tune in to the MMA Plug on 98.1 FM, Mile High Sports Radio,